Good evening, and welcome to the Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commission of Thursday, March 24th, 2022. I now call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to invite Commissioner Dorn Parker to lead us in the pledge.
If we could please stand. Join me. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We'll begin with roll call. Ms. Fatua?
Commissioner Andrade Vallarta.
Here.
Commissioner Braun.
Here.
Commissioner Dorn Parker.
Here.
Commissioner Glab.
Here.
Vice Chair Rutherford.
Here.
Chair Ashendorf.
Here.
All commissioners are present, along with Jason Minter, Director of Parks and Community Services, Recreation Manager Robert Ryan, and Monique Villasenor, Recreation Manager, City Clerk Brenda Green, and myself, Executive Secretary Laura Fatua.
Thank you very much. Mr. Minter?
Thank you very much. We have a couple of introductions we wanted to make at the start of this meeting. We have, just joining us for a few minutes, our Fairview Park Administrator, Kelly Dalton, who joined us in December to our department. He's going to come to the podium, just say a few words.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Good evening, and a pleasure to be here, commissioners and members of the city of Costa Mesa. As Jason shared, I just started here in the Parks and Community Services Department about 4 months ago. I was previously with the Public Services Department for the last 6 years, so I've been with the city for several years now, and really look forward to working with all of you. So, thank you all.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
And if you want to meet Kelly in person, have a little more conversation, Second Saturday Restoration is a great way to spend a little time with Kelly out at Fairview Park.
All right, thank you.
We also have our brand new arts specialist, so Lorette Garner, please come to the podium.
Hi, hello. I'm so happy to be here as the first art specialist for the city of Costa Mesa. There's a lot of great work that's in the future for us, for the arts. And so just a little bit about me. I just came from the city of Carlsbad as a community arts coordinator, and I manage some arts education programs there. And yeah, I've been here since February 28th, so almost a month. So thank you so much. It's nice to meet everyone. I look forward to kind of seeing your faces around. So thank you.
Welcome, and we look forward to seeing more of you. Okay. All right. The next item of business is public comment. We are going to open up for public comment on items not on this evening's agenda. Each member of the public will be given a total of 3 minutes to speak. First, we will take comments from those in the council chambers, and then we will open it up to members of the community on Zoom. We will only have one time period for each group. There will be no going back and forth. And now, members of the public in the chambers, it's now your turn to speak. Please come to our mics on either side.
Hi, I'm Kirsty McIntosh from Costa Mesa, and I don't know if you can see. In 2008, my son Matthew Brandt died from cancer. He was 2 years old, and our neighbors put a bench in Wacom Park in memory of Matthew. They paid the city $300, and the city charged us $300 for a brass plaque with his name on it. For 14 years, it's been behind the bench. In the city of Newport Beach, they put it like where your back would go as you're leaning back, but in Costa Mesa, they put it behind the bench in the mud and the crabgrass. So that's where it's been for 14 years. I'm respectfully requesting that it be removed after 14 years, that we don't want it there anymore. It's not a memorial to our son, and I have photos here of what it looks like. I've spent 14 years of calling the city and asking that it be cleaned by the landscape maintenance men, and it just doesn't happen. So we're asking that it be removed, and you can have it, I don't care, but I just don't want it there anymore. I also want to ask, and this might take me 4 minutes, but I also want to ask the commissioners how often you walk the parks that you have jurisdiction over in Costa Mesa. I think there's 31, and if you're looking at the problems in the parks, like stuff that's not painted in the parks, the playground is not painted, the sand is not 12 inches deep in Wacom Park, the playground is not painted. I'll give these to you when I'm done. These are missing logs that used to be in Wacom Park that never get replaced. Wacom Park used to be the crown jewel of Costa Mesa. Here's Matthew's memorial. It's just surrounded by crabgrass in the mud. Here is the bench. It's been vandalized. It's looked like this for 10 years. So I'll give you these photos, but if you would remove that, I would appreciate it. Okay, city manager. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for taking time to come and speak to us this evening. Are there any more members of the public wishing to address us on items not on the agenda?
Hi, I'm Amy Manzinger. This is my daughter, Sage. 3 years ago, I came to several of these meetings. We had Director Aguilar as our Parks and Rec Director, Commissioner Sarah Fahy. We've had some transitions, so I'm new to you and you're new to me, but 3 years ago, I requested that some seating be put in at Brentwood Park in Eastside Costa Mesa. I have a fully disabled Vietnam veteran father-in-law who's not able to sit by the playground, and I know part of ADA compliance requires stadium seating around all playground equipment. The commissioner did get some seating placed. In response to the seating, several neighbors in the vicinity requested that the seating be removed. They wanted no updates to the park and the playground. So I, with some other very helpful and vigorous moms, we've collected 350 signatures surrounding Brentwood Park to get the playground equipment updated, especially for the toddler age. Right now, the equipment is suitable to ages 5 through 9. It's utilized primarily by young families. There's been accidents, there's been issues with dogs. The park is heavily utilized by dogs. I know that that's happened during the pandemic, but we're asking for funds to be appropriated for new playground equipment, toddler equipment, and some ADH compliant accessibility. There's no access pathway for wheelchairs and especially strollers from Monte Vista. It's encapsulated by 2 streets and it's only accessible by 1 street. So it's very difficult for all the neighbors that live on the other side of the park and the playground to access the equipment. So we have to traverse over just a lot of bumpy grounds. As a mother, as a toddler, it's very inconvenient to do that. So we have the 350 signatures. These are not meant to be publicly posted online because they have addresses, but they are all residents of Costa Mesa and all in the vicinity and users of the park and playground.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public? Ms. Fatua. We'll now hear from the public via Zoom. If you'd like to speak, please use your raise hand option on your screen. And if you're joining the meeting on your phone and would like to speak, please press 9 to raise your hand and then press *6 when you will be prompted to speak. Are there any members of the public online, Ms. Fatua?
I see no hands raised, Chair Ashendorf.
All right, thank you very much. Then public comments are now closed. Now it'll be time for commissioner comments. Let us begin with Commissioner Andrade Vallarta.
None at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Braun.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge first that it's nice to be in the chambers, and I'm thankful that many residents from the city of Costa Mesa turned out today, and I want to thank you for coming. And I also want to thank city staff, and in particular, Ms. Fatua, for organizing us and getting us trained to be well prepared up here. And lastly, I just wanted to say in particular that I would like to make sure that there's some conversation at some point about both what Ms. McIntosh addressed here today as well as Ms. Messenger. And so, I'm wondering, I know that Ms. McIntosh said that she would like the plaque removed, and I'm wondering if there's a way for us to do something, if you would be open to us making right, whatever that would be. So it's something that I would like to consider or at least put out there for discussion.
Yes.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Rutherford.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's good to see everybody tonight. I definitely want to second Commissioner Brown's comments. In particular, want to congratulate the moms who have collected so many signatures seeking improvements in their local park. 350 signatures is definitely an organizing feat, so appreciate you raising this issue, bringing it forward to attention, and definitely encourage Director Minter and staff. Hope you guys will be able to follow up with that. I know the CIP budget cycle is coming up anyways, so it is a good time to bring this issue forward as money is being allocated in the budget cycle. I also wanted to just comment briefly that, as things are opening up again, people are vaccinated, it's safe now, and people would a lot of community groups are looking to use our public facilities again, the new facilities at the Donald Duncan Library and the Norma Herzog Community Center. And I know the reservation process hasn't really been clear to members of the public yet. I don't think it's quite opened up yet. And so I just wanted to encourage the team that there's a lot of interest in that. Those are really wonderful, beautiful spaces that have been empty for a while now, and it'd be wonderful to get community groups out using those spaces, making the most of it. And lastly, I heard a member of the public ask how often we walk our parks, and I definitely think we have a very engaged group of commissioners up here. I take the opportunity to visit our District 2 parks often, and hope you do as well. So thank you all.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Dorn Parker.
Thank you. And like the rest of the commissioners said, this is my first in-person meeting. We started in Zoom, so it's really nice to be here, and it's especially nice to see so many members of our public. And I see some young people here, so I don't know if you're here because school asked you to come look at something that has to do with civic engagement. But I also want the commissioners to know that myself and Councilmember Harlan have been meeting with these amazing families that surround the park and talking about how to better engage the community, how to better provide resources to the community utilizing the Brentwood Park. And so this is something that's a big priority for me, and I know Councilmember Harlan, and there's a couple other parks in the east side that also have family members and community very engaged, would like to help see those invigorated as we all know, the COVID had everyone needing these parks and these open spaces more than ever. And so the good news is everyone's engaged, but the bad news is we have to do some updates. And so I will continue to work with not only these lovely moms and all the families, but the other ones in the other parks. So thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Glab?
Yes, I'll just second all the commissioners' comments, or is that?
I just need to press your mic. There you go.
Yes, I'll just second all the commissioners' comments, or third it or fourth it. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, I'm on board with everything they said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I have a few comments as well. First of all, I'd like to invite the public to a a walk, a community walk on Saturday, the 26th. They will be meeting at Neat Coffee. It'll be a 3.5-mile walk highlighting Costa Mesa's women's history and women's owned businesses. And so if you're interested in walking, we invite you to park at this Costa Mesa Senior Center, and Neat Coffee is at 1922 Pomona Avenue. And if that isn't enough, on Sunday you can head on over to the Costa Mesa Historical Society. There will be an 8-mile bicycle ride throughout the city, highlighting once again Costa Mesa's women's history and women-owned business. And the Historical Society is at 1870 Anaheim Avenue. Additionally, I'd like to thank staff for responding to some questions and repairs that were asked of us regarding Lions Park. They have been taken care of. Maintenance has occurred there, and we're really happy to see that. Also, I wanted to share that I did attend the one of the tennis meetings, but more on that later. And I want to make sure that you know that at the Costa Mesa Senior Center on Monday, we will be hosting an open house for our senior citizen artist, Michael Ward. That's from 1 to 2:30. It's free and open to the public. And that concludes my comments at this time. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of February 24th, 2022.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as submitted.
All right. And do we have a second?
I second the motion.
It's been moved by Commissioner Doran Parker and seconded by Commissioner Braun. Okay, will do. Ms. Fatua, call for the question.
So we just need you to vote, Commissioner Clapp?
We're trying.
There you go. All righty. Motion carries 6-0 to approve the minutes of February 24th, 2022.
Thank you very much. All right. Next item on the agenda this evening is the community discussion for the Costa Mesa Tennis Center. And do we have a presentation by Director Minter at this time?
No, Chairperson, we do not have a presentation. I'll do a brief intro before we get the discussion kick-started with the public. Included in the report before you, it mentions a little bit about the Costa Mesa Tennis Center, kind of some of the brief history and the data on it. What tonight's meeting is about is to encourage the public to provide any input they have for the future of the tennis center. Sometimes by looking ahead, we need to look back. So what we're asking the community to give us, we have a little list that's included in the item. Things we'd like to hear about, what are their favorite amenities at the tennis center, the favorite programs that they have, if they have any ideas or thoughts for additional programming opportunities, if they have thoughts or suggestions about capital improvements, and then comments about the scheduling or the fee schedule that is in place right now. So the tennis center, for those that don't know, a quick summary, longtime operators Hank and Maureen Lloyd retired as of the end of February. Council approved an interim agreement with the Top Seed Tennis Academy for 4 months with 2 extensions of 2 months possible, while staff do outreach and gather input from the community for the creation of the scope of the RFP for the next vendor. That process is ongoing. We've had 2 meetings at the tennis center. We also have an online survey that all members of the public are welcome to complete. That survey can be found on the Costa Mesa Tennis Center webpage. There's a big bar at the top. Just click on it. To date, I believe we have over 130 surveys, 135 maybe. And we will keep that survey open for probably another week, but we do have to cut it off so that we can take all the data that we've received and turn it into a scope for the RFP that we will be taking back to City Council possibly in late April, maybe early May at this point. That concludes my report. I turn it over to you and the commission to host a discussion amongst the staff, but we're here to answer any questions. Monique Villasenor, also our resident tennis center expert that helped with the transition process. She is also here if anyone has questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Minter. And want to thank you, Ms. Villasenor. I attended the first of the two, and it was well organized. I enjoyed having the talk back and forth with strengths and weaknesses and how you engaged all those who were in attendance, and I think it was well attended, so thank you. All right, open up for any discussion at this point by commissioners before we open to public. Commissioner Doran Parker?
I just want to confirm what we're having the discussion about is whether or not we as a commission provide an opportunity for the public to have input.
Absolutely.
And we formalize that by having a meeting of our commission to do this. Is this correct,
That's
Director
correct.
Mentor? Is this what the discussion is about? Or that we provide space for them to have input?
This is the opportunity to provide input to the commission or have the commission actually host the discussion. We have had meetings on site. Those meetings tend to favor those that are familiar with the tennis center, feel more comfortable with it. Maybe they're regular users of it, but in doing our outreach, we want to make sure we cast the net broader and are able to get people that may not feel as comfortable at the tennis center to give them an opportunity as well. But again, all members of the public are welcome to attend tonight's meeting and share their input.
So I just want to clarify, so we're being asked to see a discussion to host a meeting so that the larger, wider net of the public of Costa Mesa can attend, correct? Versus the two small ones, or is this
No, this is the meeting.
This is
This is the
For
meeting
the
for them
input.
to come in?
Yes.
Yes.
So, okay, I just wanted to clarify.
So
Thanks.
a little bit more, just to make sure you're aware, notifications about the meeting have been posted both in Facebook and Instagram. Emails were sent out on a couple of occasions, I think last week, and then one was sent out earlier today to anyone that had expressed interest in the tennis center, either through the survey or by attending one of the meetings. So we do try to get the information out. There were flyers posted at the tennis center for current users, but anybody that saw it or heard about it is welcome to give their feedback. And if people aren't able to make the meeting and they're watching this recorded or they heard it from a friend, they can still send us emails. Obviously, the survey is a great way to get your information to staff as well.
Thank you. I just want to clarify because I had a few questions of people was confused whether we were setting a hearing, but this is the input stages for the wider net. Okay, thank you.
So at this point, then, I'd like to open it up to public comment. So anyone here who would like to provide input on the tennis center, please come to either of the lineup at either of the mics, please. And you have 3 minutes.
Hello, good evening, everybody. As you guys can tell, I'm a tennis player. I just came straight from the tennis court. But I was at the last city council meeting where it was, my name's Amy Pazahanik. I actually manage tennis centers. And I was at the previous city council meeting where it was on the agenda to vote through the interim managers of the Costa Mesa Tennis Center. And so obviously I was a little bit behind the 8 ball because in that meeting they were already voting on who was going to be managing the tennis center in the interim. So as you can see there, that's a bit of a conflict of interest for organizations like mine that might want to bid on this. So now we're being asked for community input after a group has already been voted in to manage the center in the interim. So my concern is that I just want to make sure that this new RFP process, when it comes out, is going to be fair and transparent, but it's already a bit of an issue that it hasn't been up to this point, because there's a current group managing it where other facility or other organizations did not get that same opportunity. As far as the actual management of the tennis center, I know that there is a tiny margin of people that spoke at that very first meeting, and only a very small percentage of people's voices are being heard. And Costa Mesa is a huge city. I think you guys have 110,000 people that live in the city, and I think we've got 130 opinions on a survey. a couple things that I've heard from a lot of people that may not want to speak up or are nervous to speak up is pickleball. They want pickleball at these tennis centers. It's the fastest growing sport in America. For the city of Costa Mesa not to have pickleball would leave them kind of in a, behind a little bit. Every city, in America has pickleball and pickleball courts and access to this. So that's just one thing. Another thing is online reservations. People need to be able to pay online, not a pen and paper accounting system, which is what's going on at the tennis center now. Again, very archaic system. And this was this organization that got voted in was supposed to be vetted. Okay, so that's a big concern to me. And now this group is going to be in there and have 6 months to get their organization up and running where other organizations aren't. So, again, my number one concern is a fair process, not for my organization. We would, of course, love a fair opportunity, but for anybody who wants a fair opportunity to bid on this and for other people in the community to speak openly in meetings and have the information when they need the information, having it after the fact is not very helpful. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you, and hope for a better process in the future.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Alexis Taylor, and I want to, first of all, thank you guys very much for the opportunity to give input tonight. As a pickleball player, we're very, very interested in adding the pickleball element to the tennis center, and we've been asking for that actually for quite a while. Before COVID hit, we had come to the city council and had asked them for more pickleball. Right now, the only pickleball we have in Costa Mesa is at the rec center, 3 mornings a week. This morning, it was so crowded that we had to play 8-point games. They're usually 11-point games. We had to go down to 8 points because there's so many paddles lined up. There's such a need here for people to play. I hadn't planned to, but I will put in a little pitch for Agape. Because Costa Mesa is so limited in their pickleball, we end up having to go to Fountain Valley to play pickleball on the weekend, and which Agape runs. And they do a fabulous job, and it is nice to register and pay online. That is a big bonus, but they also provide lessons and round robins and play, and they're just wonderful. So I think they should be given an opportunity. But also, as a pickleballer, I really, really do want that opportunity to play at the tennis center. And by the way, you can fit 4 pickleball courts onto 1 tennis court. And when we go to Fountain Valley and play, there's a lot more pickleball players than there are tennis players. So I think you need to think about that too. As she said, pickleball is the #1 growing sport in America, really over the world. So, and I invite you guys all to come play because it's such a fun sport. But we don't want you to come play now because we're too busy. We have too many people. But when we get more courts, we really want you guys to come play because it's great exercise, it's great socialization, and really a wonderful and upcoming sport. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Dale Braun. I've lived in Costa Mesa for 33 years, and I've played tennis at the Costa Mesa Tennis Center for 29 years. So I'm probably the senior player there, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. As you go forward, I enjoyed everything that Hank and Maureen were able to do there. I've taken the city lessons, I've taken private lessons, I've seen children's classes. And as you go forward, I hope you will maintain the good things that are going on there, which means the teachers, the coaches, the staff, the programs for kids, and for adults, and just for anyone who wants to play. I hope you will honor a promise that was made and funded several years ago to upgrade the lighting on the tennis courts. That was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. They did 1 court. The RFP was not adequate, so the lighting there that they did on the practice court was not what it should have been, and the project kind of died at that point. And rumor has it, I'm not sure about this, but the money went to provide homeless services or something like that, which is fine. But we would like our tennis courts lighted as was promised and funded. It needs a little TLC, like court resurfacing and fencing and the bathrooms. And if you haven't visited, I wish you would see that it needs a little upgrade, a little tender, loving care. I don't really care who operates it. I just care that they do a good job. I hope your RFP is spread widely and is competitive. The last player talked about pickleball. I haven't tried that yet. I may have to. I'm all for pickleball. I hope it would not displace any tennis courts. There's been talk about the sound that pickleball makes. That's not a problem because there is a dog park and there is a skateboard park right there. That shouldn't be a problem. But don't take any of our tennis courts away. Maybe you can figure out a way to add tennis courts. I gave the rest of my input on the survey, which was very easy to do. I attended the meeting that Mr. Mintner held at the tennis courts, and I'm very pleased with your outreach program. So far, so good. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
My name is Robert Braun. I've been a resident of Costa Mesa since 1983 and played out at the tennis courts for 29 years along with my wife, Dale. Believe it or not, you guys had an incredibly strong tennis program in Costa Mesa. Hank and Maureen were like recognized, phenomenal tennis fans in Orange County, and they were able to bring tournaments to Costa Mesa. And the tournaments were for high school and for lower level pro participants. They were limited on who they could bring into Costa Mesa to play because of the facilities were lacking. You had to have air conditioning for the umpires, and there's specific requirements for the USTA and different organizations. Hank and Maureen are incredible resources for you guys. You can do all the outreach you want, and you can get all the opinions from folks that have never played tennis. Hank and Maureen ran the operation for 20 years. They have the greatest understanding of Costa Mesa and the tennis culture in Costa Mesa. If it requires bringing them on as consultants to help you and guide you through the process, it's probably one of the more constructive things you could do. The last thing I think you guys want to end up with is a 3-inch binder on someone's shelf that houses all the opinions and all the surveys, and nothing comes of it. The lighting was funded 5 years ago. The foot candles were not specific to the surface of tennis courts, which is hard to believe that a city could issue an RFP without the right foot candles for a recreational surface. It's just crazy that that hasn't taken place. It's continued to run downhill. I know we've made improvements on the baseball fields, the golf course. We've made the rounds, the parks and rec within the city. I think the tennis courts are way, way overdue to get their infusion of improvements. Boy Scouts put in the flooring in the building as a scout project because the city just never comes through with the funding. And then once it's funded, it still needs to get in the ground. It's still got to get to the facility and not vaporize somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Oh, thank you.
Hi, I'm Sue Lynn, and I'm the coach for Calvary Chapel girls tennis team, and I've had the privilege of working with Hank and Maureen for over 35 years. And my tennis girls are here. I have wonderful support. Hank and Maureen have helped us build a no-cut policy for high school tennis. We've awarded over $90,000 in scholarships for our young ladies in the community to attend colleges, whether they go to a junior college or they go to facilities that are out of state or anywhere they may go. I totally understand the growth of pickleball, but USTA and tennis has been around forever. And I know there's time for change, but we still need our youth to play tennis. And I'm here just to tell you that, these kids play after school. They play on the weekends. Adults are retired or can get off during the day and they can play pickleball and they can play at night. Young kids need a place to go, especially after COVID. Golf, tennis, skateboarding, they're on the rise. Right now, other high schools in our community that do not have tennis courts have to go to practice at 5 o'clock in the morning at tennis clubs to be able to rent. As they've phased out these tennis courts in communities to build homes, we don't have tennis courts. So if the tennis center decides to dissolve those courts, my team is gone. And I totally understand that, like I said, everybody has a piece of the pie. You've got plenty of land behind the tennis courts to be able to add that facility or another location, perhaps in Costa Mesa. I know you could take court 11 and 12 that are the courts next to the dogs that bark incessantly. You could make those 8 pickleball courts. The other concern I have is the parking. We hardly have parking there in the afternoon. And so that's another concern as far as just everything with that involving pickleball, because it takes a lot more transportation with that. But Hangamori did a wonderful job for our program, and I would hate to see our team lose their facility after 24 years of playing there. So, and that's important to me as much as it is to pickleball. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Tina. I just want to mention there's lots of public centers, and tennis and pickleball coexist very, very nicely, very easily in all of these centers. So there's no risk to tennis if pickleball is added. Pickleball is great for all families, young, old, all ages alike, and it's a very social event that bonds the community. I also want to mention that I'm just not pleased at all as a member of Orange County. And 15 years I've lived here, live in the Costa Mesa area. I'm not pleased with the interim management company that you all have allowed for appointment. The reservations are a disaster. Anytime I try to make the reservations online, it never works. The programming that they have is very limited. And especially for different levels of tennis, from, the different levels of skill that the programs for the different level skill players. I also, as a member of, of the community, I'm very puzzled and confused why on earth we would all go and allow a Calabasas management company to come into our Orange County community and manage our centers when there's a multitude of highly qualified Orange County-based tennis management companies that could absolutely crush it and do an amazing job in our own community. I've had to go also to the Fountain Valley Center, and because I'm just not happy with what's going on in the interim. The pen to paper, as was spoken there, the pen to paper process is just super unprofessional, and in my opinion, a likelihood for some financial disaster down the road as far as accounting processes. So, anyway, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me. But I do think, as an Orange County citizen, we should truly support our Orange County public management, tennis management centers, and give them a fair process in the RFP process. Because what's going on with allowing Calabasas public, tennis management companies to come into our community just seems super odd and super, unusual to me. So,
thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you for having this hearing today. My name is Kim Cartwright. I'm a homeowner in Eastside Costa Mesa since 1996. Love this city and retired last June and have started playing pickleball and really enjoyed it. Really disappointed that our wonderful city only has 9 hours of publicly available pickleball in the city right now. So I would hope that the RFP would include the requirement to provide pickleball capabilities at the tennis club, along with discounted rates for seniors and just affordable rates, as well as drop-in pickleball. So that would be great, but above and beyond that, because pickleball is, we all know that when we have strong community, it promotes health among the population, that you will all consider more publicly available pickleball facilities in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. If anyone else would like to come and up to the other mic, that would be great.
Hi, my name's Mike. I'm the tennis coach for Costa Mesa High School. And I've known Hank, I don't know, 40 years. You had a jewel in the community. He ran that center like everybody in this city was his family member. So I love the guy. It's sad that he's left. Great, and I'm happy for him because he's retiring. But I, like Amy, agree that it's a challenge, the way things were handled in terms of the interim. And it makes people that think that are planning on putting in a bid feel like it's skewed and it's not going to be fair. That's an obvious thing as an outside person. So, that would be my primary concern. Secondly, I think that pickleball in the city should definitely spend some money in their jewel property. This is your ooh la la. You've got a park out there that's like amazing. It's not that expensive to put in 12 pickleball courts and have that part of the administration of the tennis part. The other thing in terms of the facility itself, I would recommend having somebody go out there and actually look at the plumbing for the bathrooms, okay? You guys you aren't there. If you're a person who went there, you would know that. You would go, holy cow, gotta think, what should we do about this? So I think there's almost some things that the city's neglected from that standpoint, and understandable. You had a gem. You had somebody who made the customer, the member, the family feel like this is the greatest place in the world to play. You don't have enough courts for the amount of people you have in the city. Even the USTA recommends 35, one court for 35 participants. So the city needs upgrading, and I would suggest more courts, pickleball, and definitely do the plumbing. So anyway, that's my 2 cents, and I love being a part of the community as the tennis coach at the school. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name's Russ Purcell, and I've been a resident of Costa Mesa for almost 50 years. And at one time, about 35 years ago, I sat where you are as the chairman of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Hank Lloyd's a great guy. I played tennis there for years with him and got old. And all of a sudden, tennis was harder to play, and the joints didn't like it anymore. So we didn't play anything for a while, and then we found pickleball, and a bunch of us old guys can go out there and act like crazy teenagers again and play and enjoy ourselves. So I'm tired of driving to Tustin or Fountain Valley or even Anaheim to play. I'd love to play in Costa Mesa. I'm not suggesting we do away with the tennis center. I'm sure we can share it. I like the idea of expanding it. That would even be better yet. If we can't expand it, there's got to be some way we can share it. Not having pickleball courts here is just kind of sad that we haven't kept up with that over the years. And I would love to see it change and give us a chance to play at the tennis center. It's a wonderful place, good facility, good location. And I totally support the expansion, but I know expansion costs money. Everything costs money today, but so does gas, and I'd like to stay home to play. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Last call for the public appear. Ms. Patua, do we have any members of the public on Zoom who wish to address the commission?
Yes, I have Cynthia McDonald. Just one moment.
Thank you.
You may now speak.
Good evening, Commissioners. Cynthia McDonald. I have played at the tennis center probably the longest of anybody because I played there before Hank and Maureen actually took it over. So I've seen kind of an evolution of the tennis center over the years. The city has neglected this center, and it's been for too long. And it's seriously out of date. Not only the restrooms, which, you know, I think are the same condition they were in 1970. But yeah, the lights on the I've been out on the tennis courts and had the lights quit and be standing in the dark at night on the tennis court. So yeah, you need to do something about that. We need not only to update the restrooms, but we need an air-conditioned locker and medical room. Keep the pro shop. We need racket stringing. We need shoes and clothes. You need to maintain the courts. And Hank was always battling with the city to get you to maintain the courts. As far as the programs go, keep those city classes, individual lessons for adults and the kids, the cardio classes, the ladies doubles league, the men's league, the summer camp for kids, the ability to go get a court or, you know, rent the ball machine. Most of all, you need to retain the pro coaches that are there. That is a big thing. I play tennis there because of the coaches. And it's a challenge to replace Hank and Maureen, but you know, that RFP process will weed out the good from the bad. You know, operators certainly are aware that this is up for bid and they should get their proposals in. Additional programs I'd like to see are, you know, some senior group programs. We need better seating for the players. We need a cover on hot days. We need more seating for parents for watching the kids, keep the water and ice. We need a snack bar. We need a kitchen. We need a meeting area for events. Hank would have holiday events. Go down to the Mission Viejo Tennis Center. That's what we need. That is a perfect tennis center as far as I'm concerned. Scheduling and fees, you know, keep them low, especially for the kids. Pickleball. I've watched pickleball being played. It looks like a lot of fun, but boy, is it noisy. And it's a different rhythm than tennis. And maybe put some courts over by the baseball field in T-Winkle, because it's not going to be something that a tennis player wants to play next to. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to get a court there. Yeah, you know, you go in and you use the pen and paper method at the counter to get a court, but we've always done that. So parking, yeah, you can improve the parking lot.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald.
There.
Ms. Patua, are there any other members of the public on Zoom?
Yes, we have Barbara. If there are any other members, please also raise your hand as well. Thank you. This is for Zoom public comment.
Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I just want to, first of all, thank Jason. I think since the city council meeting, he's really stepped up and reached out to the community and is doing his due diligence, hopefully, through the whole process. I know Hank and Maureen ran the center for a long time, but it is run down and it's time for, you know, some changes. And the bathrooms are, you know, pretty bad. The lighting sucks. But, you know, in addition, there's enough courts to convert some of them to a pickleball court. And my daughter is in high school and her friends play pickleball. She's also on the tennis team. So kids are enjoying pickleball just as much as, you know, the older people, the middle-aged people. And I think it's something we should offer to the community. Another thing that is happening since this short-term lease has been handed over to Calabasas is to call and make reservations for court time. The phones are constantly left off the hook and are busy to where the point you have to drive over to make an appointment. And I think if we can get the appointments and the payments down to being through the computer, through a system, it would be much more beneficial. And the city can track the money. It'd be a lot clearer to track the money that's coming in. It'd be easier to reserve. And I think overall, keep the RFP in Orange County, keep the RFP, the long-term lease with an Orange County based tennis center. And, I think that's, it, but I think pickleball would be great. And if anybody complains about the sound, if you're playing tennis there, you hear the traffic on the 55, you hear the dogs barking. And I really think the community would support converting 2 of those courts, because at the end of the day, there's not enough courts and the facilities will never be up to par for any type of pro tournaments to be held there. So let's spend the money and make some pickleball courts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, I see no other hands raised on Zoom.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Batua. We will now close public comment and take any comments from the commission. Vice Chair Rutherford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I wanted to extend thanks to everybody that's weighed in on this issue tonight and in prior meetings. I do want you to feel like your input matters on this issue, especially with some members of city staff that are relatively new, and hearing about community members and your experience is really important, especially charting the future of the tennis center. I do want to pull forward some concerns that were raised, so maybe we can clarify some things, but my understanding of the hearing tonight and your feedback is that this is to inform an RFP process moving forward, and that, while I empathize with your concerns about the interim operator that the city council selected, my understanding is that as interim, there will be a fair, open RFP selection process. Director Minter, could you expand on that a little bit?
Absolutely. From a staff's perspective, both Monique and I, who are, have been working on the transition, that's what we want. We want all of the best vendors from whether it's Orange County or whoever to be able to submit proposals knowing that they will be considered. So we have a team of staff assembled from the city manager's office, the public services department, and then obviously our department to evaluate those proposals. And during that process it's not a low bid. It's not anything like, people might be used to in government. It's a thorough evaluation of whatever the proposals are. Just for clarity, and I know the interim position is kind of an awkward one for the current vendor to be in, because we gave them specific instructions not to get too comfortable in their role. I know Top Seed, in working with them during the transition, they have a much fancier, a much more sophisticated reservation system at their other locations, but they weren't going to put the money and make that investment for 4 months. So, they've had to withhold from doing things that they would as a full vendor, because they only have it for an interim, and we wanted to make sure that message was clear to them. So I do apologize to the public that may have challenges in getting reservations, because they don't have the professional system that we would expect from whoever the new vendor ends up being. So that point is just what I wanted to make. But yes, open and transparent. I encourage all. I've spoken with many different, potential proposals groups, and the more the merrier. So I think Monique has talked to a few. I know I've talked to a few, and we will make sure we're diligent in getting the RFP out to the community. We will be coming before City Council to review, so the council can review the scope, to make sure that, again, another opportunity for input from the public, from potential vendors. All of those things are still in play.
Thank you for clarifying that, Director Minter, and I hope members of the public are encouraged to submit a bid and follow the RFP do you have an estimated timeline when, input is being collected right now for the RFP, but do you have an estimated timeline of when that RFP will actually be posted for people to look at it and then submit a proposal and a bid?
The process would be to take the RFP scope to City Council for approval. Shortly after council approval, which I would assume would be just a few days, we will get it posted. Part of the RFP process will include a mandatory in-person meeting at the tennis center, so that all vendors have an equal shot at as long as they have somebody from their organization represented at that meeting, they would be authorized to make a bid. The details, all questions, anything that comes up regarding the RFP process will be shared or will be answered during that meeting, or that that in-person meeting, the mandatory meeting, so that again it's an even playing field for all groups. If any questions come up that staff aren't able to answer at that meeting, an official addendum will be done, posted, so that again all applicants have access to the same information.
Thank you for that. And just one more question to drill down on that. If I'm an interested operator, hypothetically, who is the best person from city staff to contact with questions about the RFP process or the proposal?
Right now, it's the finance department oversees that through the purchasing division. So any interested vendor can go on to the finance department page. Over on the left column, there's a little button, a little click to link to register as a vendor. They go through that registration process through Planet Bids. And that way, when that RFP is posted, anyone that has registered as a vendor will receive that notification. Staff will do additional outreach just to make sure that people we've communicated, but the objective finance department is the one that actually hosts and posts that RFP through Planet Bids.
Got it. Thank you for that update. We've also heard a lot from pickleball players tonight. Appreciate your interest in the sport. My dad's actually, he's up there, but he's getting into it now too, which is awesome. The commission did take an action at our last meeting to approve pickleball courts. Director Minter, perhaps you could provide an update on both that action and where that's at now. But I definitely want you to feel heard. I know the city council takes very seriously that input and has provided that direction to move forward as well. So if you could provide an update on that project, that would be great.
Absolutely. Tanager Park, the commission last month heard a discussion about Tanager Park and requested feedback from the community about that project. We actually had a job walk, Rob was there earlier this week, to talk about those improvements. We are looking to add 2 pickleball courts to the vacant basketball court, not the one that's currently has the basketball standards, but the one adjacent to it. We hope maybe late May, early June to have a ribbon cutting for those 2 pickleball courts. That is the first of what could be a few more projects. I don't want to, get anyone's hopes up too soon, but we do have a couple of other projects that we've been talking about that we either will include with the CIP process or bring forward to the commission at a later date. If we do have a target location, like a specific park, we like to notice the neighbors in the area surrounding that park so that they can feel heard on the park that's closest to them. While on that note, just to make sure the public understands, the City Council will be having the CIP Study Session on April 26th, which is a great time for anyone in the community to come out and talk about capital projects that they'd like to see the city consider. That is just a study session, so it's all for input and a presentation by our public services team. But again, that input from that study session is what will help determine what gets brought back to the council for approval and funding.
No, that's great. Thank you for that update. No further questions from my end. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Dorn Parker, I see your name as recognized. No comments?
No.
Oh, all right.
Our vice chair took care of a lot of my questions and also took care about the commission has been very interested in the expansion of pickleball in this city.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Braun.
I just have a question about process. So I heard some of the concerns around process. And so thinking through, because I'm new to the commission and I haven't been through an RFP process before, what does the presentation of data look like for the RFP process? So I'm wondering, for example, will the data from the survey, from the meetings and this commission meeting be made public, or will it inform the RFP? Obviously, I heard that it'll inform the RFP, but I'm curious, I'm a data person too, how, what kind of access the citizens of Costa Mesa have to that data collection?
The staff report that we present to the city council will have summaries of, the data that was collected through the surveys. As you can imagine, as that number continues to grow, we're going to get, more and more different opinions. So we will present that along with a recommendation to the city council. Some of the things, we have a draft RFP that staff had put together, and now we're just trying to fill in some of the blanks based on community input. But as you can tell already, you have anti-pickleball people and pro-pickleball people, so there will be, both sides or multiple sides represented from the data that's presented. I think from the RFP process, the more proposals that we get in, that's what we're looking for to encourage. We narrow that down to the 2 or 3 that we think are most representative of what the community wants. We do interviews, with their teams so that they can have, make sure they put their best foot forward. A lot of the things that we put in that list, capital improvements, who's going to do it? We've talked about doing, having a special fund set aside for capital improvements at the tennis center, much like the golf course does. The rest of the scope of the RFP is what's the vendor going to do? What's the city going to do? How are we going to split revenue? How are they, just basic things like that. But it is more of a flexible negotiation process. It's not as rigid as a bid process might be. So they're usually pretty fun, and it's more fun the more bids that you get. So I've been involved in RFP processes where you get one bid, and it kind of takes some of the opportunity away from really challenging the vendors to put their best foot forward.
Commissioner Glab?
No, I think Commissioner Rutherford and Commissioner Braun did a great job on those questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Andrade Vallarta?
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you so much, everyone, for providing great feedback. But it sounds like we got some really great improvements outline of what are some of the priorities that the frequent users have of the tennis court. So looking forward to see that incorporated in the process.
Thank you. I think the only 2 things I didn't hear this evening that were brought up when we were in person was security and safety. And I want to make sure that is stressed also, because that was a concern to some of the tennis players. But one of the positive things was that they felt that our tennis center is filled with folks who are loyal tennis players, loyal to Costa Mesa, and it's affordable, and it's also more of a family there. So I know some of that happens when you lose some of that, when you lose someone like our operators who were there for 24 years, for which we're grateful. And we hope that with the improvements and a new RFP, that we will restore that same kind of value to that tennis center for our community. So.
And if anyone is in attendance and they didn't get an email or they want to be contacted about future developments, they can go onto the website, or if they want to share their email with staff up front, they can get on that mail distribution list as well. So we are encouraging all input as well. We will probably cut the survey off, as I said, sometime next week, and put a little message on the webpage about that. But we're excited about the process moving forward. We hope for a continued smooth transition. If there are issues with reservations, we will look into that first thing tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you again to the public who joined us this evening, who gave us input and stay with us as we go through the process. The next item on our agenda is the tree removal request for 2095 Valley Road. And we'll wait just a moment as people move out, and then Mr. Ryan, we'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Ashendorf, and good evening, Commissioners. It's truly a pleasure to see everyone in person finally, and to see such great community engagement for our first meeting. It's kind of exciting. So the next item before you is a request for removal of 2 city trees located within the public right-of-way on the Bluffs Drive side of 2095 Valley Road. The applicant contacted the Maintenance Services Department on September 9th, 2021, requesting removal of 2 Canary Island pine trees. They're located in the public right-of-way on the Sea Bluff side of 2095 Valley Road. The applicant reported the trees were producing excessive amount of cones, sap, and pine needle drop. They also cited concerns regarding ongoing issues with the sidewalks that are adjacent to the trees. The original request was to be presented as a Category 2 accelerated removal. However, Category 2 removals would generally be approved by the Public Services Director. Therefore, we're presenting this as a Category 3 discretionary removal for the Commission's consideration. The trees in the surrounding area were inspected on September 9th, 2021. One tree is about 30 to 40 feet in height. The second tree is about 60 feet in height. They are found to be healthy and in good condition. They were last trimmed on December 17th, 2021. The amount of pine needle drop beneath the trees in the surrounding area appear to be normal at the time of inspections. There's no obvious signs of sap on the sidewalk or asphalt at the time of inspection. The photo on the left was taken on January 25th, 2022. The photo on the right was taken on February 25th, 2022. The applicant did provide photos that you have as part of your staff report and part of your packet. Those photos did show a significant amount of pine needles. I didn't have those in a digital format, so I could not include them in my presentation, but you should have those before you in your packet in the original request. The amount of pine needles, even in those pictures, didn't appear to be unusual for Canary Island pines. The shedding of pine needles can be greater during certain times of the year and, of course, during wind events. I must mention that pine needles do drop needles, they do drop sap, they do drop large pine cones. That is a part of their normal growth habit, so there's nothing unusual about that. As you'll see in the next few slides, these trees do have some history. July of 2008, Maintenance Services received a report of damage to the curb, gutter, and sidewalk due to the tree roots. The street sections responded and placed a 1 3/4 inch high asphalt ramp as a temporary measure. City arborists did evaluate the trees at that time, and they were found to be healthy. In September of 2010, a mill and overlay was completed in the street adjacent to the trees on Sea Bluff Drive. This was part of the city's tree maintenance project. In April of 2016, Maintenance Services received a call regarding concerns of a lifted sidewalk. The street section responded and performed 4 sidewalk grinds in order to eliminate any potential tripping hazards. Gaps in the sidewalk were also filled with concrete at that time. In April of 2016, again, Maintenance Services received a request for the removal of the 2 trees. The city arborist notified that the trees were healthy and that there was no justification for removal. Root pruning was completed to the tree closest to Valley Road. 39 feet of 18-inch root barrier panels were installed at that time. Root pruning was not done to the second tree. There's some concern regarding a slight lean that that tree had. They want to take out any of the supporting roots. In 2016, the resident did request that trees be placed on the commission agenda as a Category 3 discretionary removal. The Parks and Recreation Commission reviewed this removal request from the resident during the regularly scheduled meeting. The commission approved the recommendation from staff to deny the request for removal at that time. In February 2017, staff received a request to have the trees trimmed. The tree closest to Valley Road was trimmed on May 15th. The tree furthest from Valley Road was not trimmed at that time. I couldn't locate any records of why that tree was not trimmed. It's a slightly smaller of the 2 trees. There could have been a car parked at that particular time at scheduling tree trimming. May of 2017, curb and gutter replacement adjacent to the trees on Sea Bluff Drive was completed as part of the city's annual citywide parkway project. And then in February 2021, Maintenance Services received a request for the evaluation of the trees. City arborists did evaluate both trees at that time and determined that 2 trees were healthy. And again, in September of 2021, we received a formal request. Actually, the work order is dated September of 2021, but the formal request to have the trees agendized again was on July 21st, 2021. Again, in September of 2021, Maintenance Services received a request regarding the again lifted sidewalk. Street section responded, performed 5 sidewalk grinds measuring in various heights from 1/2 inch to 2 inches in size. You can see in the photo the sidewalk grinds are holding. It's obvious that the root system from these trees has caused some movement in the sidewalk, as you can see in these pictures. Several areas on the Sea Bluff Drive have been ground in order to eliminate any tripping hazards. Sidewalk grinds were most recently formed again in September of 2021. There's really no significant exposure for liability for the city at this time. There are no obvious signs of issues with the curb and gutter. The asphalt was undisturbed for the most part. There was some slight cracking just outside the restored area, but nothing that would require immediate attention or pose a risk of liability for the city. In summary, the city-owned trees are being requested for removal are located in the public right-of-way. Trees are healthy and in good condition, have been maintained on a regular schedule. The issues with the sidewalk, the curb and gutter, and the asphalt have been addressed by city staff. They're not currently causing a significant exposure to liability for the city. The trees do not appear to be causing an unusual amount of leaf litter or debris for this type of tree. It's recommended the commission deny the request to remove these trees. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Are there any questions of Mr. Ryan at this time? All right, seeing none, anyone open public comment on this item? Ms. Batua, is anyone available wishing to address the commission?
Yes, I have Chad Parker. Chad Parker, you're allotted 3 minutes.
Thank you very much.
You may now speak.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, welcome, Mr. Parker.
Thank you. I am the homeowner and I've been here for 15 plus years maintaining those trees. The reason those pictures look so well is because I pay weekly to have this corner lot maintained. We pay a service to keep the grass cut. We pay the water bill to keep the grass watered and green, and those trees are in healthy condition at our cost, not the city's cost. I also maintain my yard on a bi-weekly basis of continually picking up the pine needles. It is not just a certain times of the year, it is all year long. I have pine needles in my yard constantly. I cannot keep up with the pine needle cleaning. I have pictures that show where, yes, during the wind cycle, the amount of pine needles bury my backyard, completely covering our swimming pool. Not just that, our grandchildren's play set is completely covered. So this is a continual cost, not just a couple times a year, but it is a continual cost on a weekly basis. And we are proud Costa Mesa residents. We have pride of ownership in our property. We like it to look good, to present the Costa Mesa image. We understand that Costa Mesa is a tree city now, that they have been awarded that. So I'm not asking to diminish the tree population in any stretch. I'm asking to remove these 2 trees that are causing us a financial burden and plant 6 more trees somewhere else in the city. So the city is actually gaining 4 trees, not losing 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Batua, is anyone else wishing to address the commission?
There are no other hands raised, Chair Ashcraft.
All right, thank you. We'll close public comment. Are there any comments by the commission at this time? Commissioner Glab.
Is Mr. Ryan, is the homeowner responsible for the pine needles on the other side of his property in the parkway and on the sidewalk? Is he responsible to pick those up and keep? Is he responsible to keep that maintained and pick up the pine needles and water those trees? Are they responsible for that?
Yes, the homeowner is responsible for the irrigation of the parkway and on that location and for the maintenance of the parkway, yes.
Oh, okay. And one other question. Can residents put together a presentation, like a PowerPoint presentation like you do for the city? Are they allowed to be able to do the same thing, the same kind of presentation?
Yes.
Usually it's just a letter and then the pictures. So I was just wondering, are they allowed to do the same type of presentation you can do? And
As far as I'm
PowerPoint?
aware, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Glab. I have a motion on the floor by Vice Chair Rutherford.
If I could just quickly speak to the motion as well. My understanding, Mr. Ryan, is you get a lot of tree removal requests, and you know, if the staff is recommending to deny it, then there's really not a good reason to remove this tree. And so I trust the expertise of our amazing city staff, and so that's why I'd like to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation. With all due respect to the homeowner, we appreciate him calling in tonight.
I will second that motion. Are there any comments? All right, then we'll call for the question. Ms. Fatua. Did we get it?
So there should be a voting function of a yes or no.
Can you repeat the question, what we're voting on? 'Cause
So
I know you
it's
made a
motion to approve the staff recommendation
Okay.
to keep the tree as is.
Have we voted?
Oh, yeah.
Commissioner Glabby, your vote's not showing. There you go.
All right. Motion carries 5-1 with Commissioner Glab voting no.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Please don't go too far. The next item on the agenda is the donation of the memorial tree and plaque at Wacom Park. I believe that's you, sir.
Yes, it is. I do have a brief presentation. Thank you. Maintenance Services received a letter from Lee and Brittany Stoneham requesting permission to donate a tree and plaque in memory of their daughter, Kennedy Stoneham. The tree and plaque would be located at Wacom Park. Kennedy Stoneham was 17 years old when she suddenly passed away on February 11th, 2022, due to complications brought on by COVID-19. According to her parents, Kennedy was very social and had a lot of close friends. She was working hard in school and about to finish her junior year of high school at San Juan Hills. Kennedy grew up playing soccer and was a fierce competitor. She was a born leader and will be greatly missed by many. Wacom Park was specifically chosen as Kennedy's parents spend a lot of time walking their two dogs in and around the park and the surrounding community. Mr. and Mrs. Stoneham shared that Kennedy has many friends and family from all over, and that a memorial tree at Wacom Park would provide a peaceful place for them to gather and remember Kennedy. Staff met with the family and identified a potential location for the tree towards the south end of the park near the picnic shelters. If you can see the picture, there's a couple of little flags and a little white X painted on the turf. Another angle of it. The specific type of tree has not been finalized. We'll work with the family to identify a tree that is appropriate for the specific location and will be viable for the soil conditions there and the irrigation that it receives. Staff recommends that Parks, Arts, and Community Services Commission accept the donation of a tree and memorial plaque to be installed in Wacom Park in memory of Kennedy Stoneham. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I see no question. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Braun.
I have to, well, I'm trying to look at your eyes, but I can't. I have to ask the question in response, and hopefully I'm not violating anything in terms of going back an agenda item, but I'm curious, well, I guess my question is, in regards to the plaque, you know, I have the words of the woman who wants the one plaque removed. Where will this plaque be applied? And do you anticipate us finding ourselves discussing something similar down the road than what we heard earlier? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. I'm glad you mentioned that. I was very dismayed to hear that as well. Broke my heart. So we'll look into that, and we will work with that donor to make that right, and hopefully they're still willing to keep it there. Unfortunately, it does happen from time to time as we have some older plaques that they do get missed as we have staff that moves in and out that perform maintenance. These are very small plaques, and so if they're not aware of them, unfortunately, from time to time, they do get missed. We do our best to maintain them. Part of the issue with that particular plaque is it looks like it's sunken down in the earth a little bit as the earth is settled, so it probably needs to be raised up to make it more obvious and a few other things, but no, I don't anticipate we'll be having that conversation again in the future.
Thank you, Commissioner
Thank
Brown.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Yes,
a-
Commissioner Dorn Parker.
To that. As someone who's involved in foundations and memorial benches and parks and trees, and hearing, the prior donors' anguish about the placement of the plaques, knowing that staff changes, and there are interesting placements of plaques, would this be a good time for us to evaluate the type of benches and see whether or not the plaques can be installed, like attached to the benches versus in a separate area so that earth doesn't move, animals don't come in? I mean, we've seen it all sort of in the foundation that I was working with.
Yes, thank you. It's pretty unusual to have a bench in the middle of a turf in a dirt area. That's not a common practice that we find. We're working on installing benches more along pathways so that those plaques can be installed in concrete. The issue with installing them on the bench is that we do require that the bench match existing furniture sites, first per site. We do have some locations that have recycled wood materials where we can and do mount the plaque onto the back of the bench. Unfortunately, at this particular park, we have expanded metal, and that plaque really can't be mounted onto the back of that bench.
On the back, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can imagine we're learning from some of these circumstances that maybe was a decision made that now evolve it.
Yeah, from the looks of it, a decision was made years ago, and it's something we've, not because of this or others, but we just moved away from this.
Okay, thank you.
If there's no one in the public chambers, is there anyone wishing to speak on Zoom? Ms. Fatua?
There are no hands raised, Chair Ashendorf.
All right, thank you very much.
Chair Asher, if I may, Mr. and Mrs. Stoneham are traveling right now. They wanted to be here this evening, but they're mid-travel, so they just expressed their appreciation. And
thank you for sharing that. We appreciate that. So with that, first of all, we'd like to share our condolences with the family. That's a very difficult time for them. And I see that we have a motion by Commissioner Dorn Parker and a second by Commissioner Andrade Vallarta. We'll call for the question.
Motion carries 6-0 to approve the donation of the memorial and plaque.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fatua. And thank you, Mr. Ryan. Good to see you again. All right, we'll move on to monthly reports. The first is to receive the report from Park Ranger Stanley Garcia for the month of February. Are there any comments from the commission? Yes, Director Minter.
Just a couple of comments. The report obviously is before you for the month of February. I did look into, or I inquired with Lieutenant Watkins, who oversees the Park Ranger program, as to the request for information about like vandalism. If the vandalism were to be caught on site by the park ranger at the time, then yes, it would most likely be listed in this report. This is not to assume or imply that no vandalism is taking place. I think Mr. Castanetti made that very clear, the amount of vandalism that's occurred at the OCME train station. But that's not that just data isn't data that the park rangers did collect based on their citations and their encounters. So it is something that PD tracks and works with graffiti control on in other areas. With that report is for your acceptance.
I do have a comment on the Fairview Park. There lists 5 citations for signs and notices to be obeyed, and that seemed rather vague to me. I didn't understand what that meant.
I don't have any further information on those citations, unfortunately. I can inquire and share that with you.
I'll go back to the park and read the signs. Commissioner Andrade Vallarta? Oh, okay, so I just see your mic on. All right. With that, we will move on to the next item, and that's the director's report. Mr. Minter?
Thank you very much. The director's report for the month of February is also before you. I'll let Monique kind of highlight some of the programming. I did want to mention Fairview Park. Don't forget the second Saturday restoration. If you haven't done one, they're doing great work over around the vernal pools, kind of on the southeastern side, getting rid of thatch. They are working in conjunction with the contractor that's out there to do restoration of the vernal pools as per the master plan. So they've done some weed control. Spraying has been done by the contractor, and then some scraping of where the vernal pool area is. So, maybe to the untrained eye, that you might walk past and not see much going on. But if you're out there on a second Saturday restoration day, there are mounds and mounds of thatch that has been removed by the volunteers. Very appreciative of the Alliance and all the volunteers that do show up for those days. And again, every second Saturday, you're welcome to come out. They do have days, well, you missed the March 12th one. I don't like having these meetings so late in the month. So I'll bring an agenda item forward one of these days to see if we can't change the time, the day and time that we meet as a commission. But we'll get to that later. A couple of things just to note. There are some potential events that are coming up. Springfest is going to be one of our big Easter event hosted by our rec staff. So April 16th is Springfest. The city is in the process of planning some Earth Day events. So the April 22nd, there will be some activities here at City Hall, and we'll also have hopefully some community guided tours over at Fairview Park with a lot more information to come on Earth Day later. That is a Friday, kind of a difficult day for a lot of families if kids are in school and parents work. But hopefully with flexible schedules and, working from home and all of those fun things, we still have a good attendance at our Earth Day events. The Spring Bark Bash is also listed on May 14th. And for those of you that have, know about Costa Mesa's Love Costa Mesa Day, that is also coming up in May. And we are still working on a list of projects that we can, engage the public in helping to improve our facilities. Capital projects, just to touch on those, the Jackhammer Sports Complex construction continues. If you've driven up and down Fairview, you can see the storage building rising from the dust. So that's an exciting portion of that project. If you do have a chance to go by, maybe drive through on the Costa Mesa High School side, you can see the forming of the concrete that's been done, the curbs. It'll probably be quite a few weeks before they actually get to paving and doing the slurry seal and striping. But you can really see that project starting to take shape, for the lighting improvements and where the light poles are starting to be installed for new lighting. So that's exciting. And then on the Downtown Aquatic Center, last Friday they drained the pool and have started removing some of the old tile and some of the old plaster. I saw a picture of it earlier today, and it's definitely going to be a process, but one we hope goes smoothly, and we have the pool up and running with brand new plaster and tile in time for our summer programs. With that, I'll turn it over to Monique for a program update.
I just wanted to note on the event side, the Spring Bark Bash has been moved to May 21st. We didn't want it to, we had some conflict with the Love Costa Mesa Day, so we didn't want them to take place on the same day. So we did end up just recently moving that. So So getting back to just some programs and highlighting, you guys have the report in front of you. Our numbers continue to look good, but just highlighting some of the things that are really starting to open up, which is our downtown recreation center, the open gym aspect. I know that you heard some comments today about how people are, love playing pickleball there. We have youth basketball, we have basketball. So it's really starting to pick up. I think, with the vaccinations and the lower rates, people are able to come in and play, mask free if they're vaccinated. So that's really picking up, and it's really a busy rec center. So next, I also wanted to talk about, just the improvement in numbers in contract classes. I know that not many people know about contract classes, but they're fitness, recreation programs that we contract with outside instructors that teach at some of our facilities, whether that's at our Bel Community Center, the Downtown Recreation Center, the Aquatic Center. And so those are a variety of classes that people can register for. And what's exciting is this upcoming summer, our rec guide that has been virtual for the last since the pandemic started, is going to be printed and mailed out for the summer for the first time in the 2 years. So we're really looking forward to that. So more people will start to see our programs and register for that. Just to highlight, also our adult sports, we've had to cancel, as you know, for the Inside Gym, our adult basketball league. So we'll be starting that again. We've started contacting teams that have usually played. They're very excited. Our sports coordinator, Emily Pulaski, has just been bombarded with teams that are so excited to come back and play. I mean, they're beyond excited. So we're looking forward to starting that back up again, the adult basketball leagues. Next, I just want to talk about fields. If you didn't get a chance, Little League and Pony had their opening days just recently, and so that was a good time. You know, fire, police came out. They had a really good celebration of opening day at Tewinkle Park. So just those are a couple of the things I just wanted to highlight for this month.
Before I end the director's report, a couple other things to note. We will have Emily Pulaski, the previously mentioned Emily, come before, so you can meet Emily. She's still a relatively new program coordinator. We also have a vacant program coordinator. Our aquatics coordinator had left, so we'll be advertising for that position. And at the last council meeting, City Council approved, among other positions, the creation of a new program coordinator that will focus on rentals of things like the Norma Herzog Center, the DRC, and our rental program. We basically were able to get that position by consolidating some part-time positions that we're having trouble filling still. So we really hope to be able to bring in and utilize a full-time staff member to do that very important service of having rental opportunities available. So there is a project that starts April 11th at the Norma Herzog Center. It's just a patio-related project, but that will also delay our ability to effectively rent that center. But it should only be, a short time, a few weeks before that patio project is done, and really provides an even bigger draw for the public that may want to rent or use that space for, prestigious type events, weddings, things like that. So we're really excited to get the patio done, and that having that program coordinator in place will go a long way with that. So that said, thank you so much to Monique for all of her hard work with the tennis center transition. I know, she threatened to open her own Monique Villasenor tennis and pickleball. She, joked about submitting a proposal. I think she was joking, but we'll see in a few weeks once the RFP goes out. But I do want to thank her for all the hard work she put in during the tennis center transition, and we pulling staff from our office to go over and work some of the hours that she couldn't. We were able to get a new staff member from the tennis center, and so ultimately I think we learned a lot in the short period of time that will also help us with the RFP process, which was kind of one of the goals to begin with. Is you never really know how something operates until you try to do it yourself, and so we learned a lot. Hank and Maureen were amazing to work with, through that whole period, and I've heard that Hank has been out there, but we'll definitely be reaching out to Hank or Maureen once we get a little further along in the process, but I don't know that we're going to have them on our review panel. So. But with that, I'm here to answer any questions, or Monique as well.
Thank you. I have a question for Ms. Villasenor, and that is relative to the Downtown Recreation Center. Could you just clarify for me? It says under pickleball, 60 participants and 117 visits. So what do the rest of, if I do the math, what are all those other people doing?
So the participants is how many people buy like day passes to come and play, and then so they could come in and they check in. They could buy a 5-day pass. They could buy or a 5-visit pass. So it depends on how many, like a punch card type of style. So when they visit, so that's how many visits that we've had for pickleball. But that's how many people have purchased the passes.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. Understood. All right. Yes, Commissioner Glab.
Yes, I have a question for Ms. Villasenor. What's the deadline for a vendor to apply to teach a contract class, like for the fall?
So there's no deadline to apply, but we do work off of a seasonal basis, and we get started pretty early. So right now, like we're finishing summer right now. So that's about to go to print for our summer guide and kind of the review process. So it's a couple months before the season starts is what, we have a contract class coordinator, Tiana Johnson, and so she's the one that handles all the new instructor proposals and evaluates there and puts them into, you know, our guide and gets them all set up with the contract. So it's usually a few months before.
So would you say July for the fall? When does the fall classes start?
The fall classes start, so they run with the seasons. So September, October, November is fall.
Okay.
You know, no, December, January, February is winter.
So you would recommend like July? For
yeah, I would say that, you know, just the earlier the
July?
better.
Okay.
You know, it never hurts because there's no early time frame that you can submit. So if we
And
have your proposal, then
Can they teach those classes in their own facility?
yes, we do have contract classes in people's own facilities. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I think that was it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, seeing no other comments, again, before we adjourn, I want to thank you, Ms. Fatua and Ms. Green and Ms. Villasenor and Mr. Minter for the time you've given us to refresh our memories or train us on how to be professional up here. So appreciate it. Thank you. With that, we will adjourn to April 28th at 6 p.m. Thank you.